Becky and this is my Engage activity. In this presentation I'm going to demonstrate how I have identified a Victorian curriculum content statement. The statement that I chose for my students today was identify examples of continuity and change in family life and in the local area by comparing the past and the present. I have taken this statement from the History Concepts and Skills for Foundation to Level 2. The lesson's going to go for about an hour and I've decided to be after lunch. So before lunch I'm going to present each of my students an envelope and I'm going to ask them to open up the envelope when they've gone outside. In the envelope is going to be an invitation, boarding pass for what looks like a plane. It says up the top passenger, which is students from Miss Schmidt's classroom, flight 66 from class, and then I'll write the class that we are in. So for this example, class 1B, the destination to the unknown or to a place with great history. I've given them the time, which will be 2 o'clock after lunch, the date. I've allocated them a seat, so for this example I've got middle row, the gate that we'll be departing from, and then I've written a little "don't be late." I guess I've created this for a few reasons. One, I really want them to engage in conversations while they're out for lunch with their friends. I want them to talk about what they think we'll be doing. I want them to really start thinking about the lesson. I want them to be excited for our lesson. I just want to add a whole kind of new element, I guess, to the lesson. So they come in really enthusiastic to learn and really excited to think where we will be going today. I think this would probably link to one of my excellent statements. It will help the students make a personal connection. When I teach, I want my students to really think that they are historians, I guess. So if I was teaching science, I would want them to be zoologists, or I really want them to transform into the role. I want them to take the lesson seriously. I want them to challenge their thinking. So that's one reason that I've given them the boarding pass. When the students do go out for lunch, I'm going to set the room up a bit differently. We're going to have 3 rows, the aisle, and another 3 rows, so it models a plane. Around the outside I'm going to have the desks. So I've given them an allocated seat for a few reasons. I really want to use it as a bit of a behaviour management tool. So if I have any children with a few behaviour issues or challenges, I might put them all in the middle row, or I might put them all on the far row, just so I can have a little bit more control about who they're sitting next to. So I'll have a think about that before I hand them their individual cards. So the lunch bell will ring, I'll ask them to all line up outside the door will be shut. I'll be asking them, what do you guys think we're doing today? Getting heaps of thoughts happening, heaps of discussion. I'll get them to present me with their boarding pass. They'll have a look at their seats, they'll have to find their seat. And then once they're all seated, the lights will go off, and then I'm going to play a video that I've made or I've put together with a few different YouTube clips. I'm not going to give them a big introduction about what we're going to do. I'm going to let the boarding pass, the discussion we had before they entered the room, the layout of the room with the seats, and this video really demonstrate or kind of explain what we're going to do. I want them to keep thinking, getting excited. I want to know their ideas as well before the lesson starts. So the lights are off, they're all seated, and I'm about to play this on the interactive whiteboard.
Welcome aboard, and thanks for flying with us. We're committed to making your flight safe and comfortable. So before we depart, we'll be showing a brief safety presentation. This information can help you if there's an emergency, so it's important to pay close attention, even if you are.
This is your captain speaking. Please pay attention. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Thompson Airways and my crew, a very warm welcome on board. I would ask that you please give me your full attention as I run through the safety procedure on board this aircraft. Your seatbelt must be fastened whenever the seatbelt signs are on. Your seatbelt is fastened, adjusted, and unfastened like this. We recommend that you keep your seatbelt securely fastened and visible at all times. In the unlikely event of the aircraft having to make an emergency landing, you must adopt the waist position demonstrated on your safety card. There are 8 emergency exits. Your nearest exit, which may be behind you, is being pointed out now by your cabin crew. Additional low-level lighting will help you find your way to the exits. Opening the doors in an emergency will automatically inflate the evacuation slides. The slides at the main doors can be used as flotation aids. Your life jacket is located under your seat or beneath your sensor armrest. When instructed, place it over your head. Pass the tapes around your waist and tie securely in a double bow on your left side. Do not inflate your life jacket until you are outside the aircraft. To inflate, pull the red toggle sharply downwards. If it fails to inflate, or if you need to top up the air, blow into this tube. A light and whistle are provided to attract attention. Additional life jackets and flotation cots for small children and babies will be given out by your cabin crew. If oxygen is needed, masks will drop down from the panel above your head. Pulling the mask down will start the flow of oxygen. Put the mask over your nose and mouth and breathe normally. Make sure your own mask is fitted before helping others. Ensure that your mobile is turned off throughout the flight and all other electronic equipment is off for takeoff. Please ensure luggage is not blocking the aisles or exits. Luggage can be placed under the seat in front of you or in the overhead compartment. Take care when placing items as when opened. They may fall out and injure other passengers. Please ensure your seatbelt is securely fastened, your seat back upright, and your tray table is folded away. We strongly recommend that you now take a moment to read the safety card before takeoff. This is in your seat area and it shows the brace position, exits, life jackets, and oxygen. That's it from us. Enjoy your flight.
So I guess the aim for this video is to really ignite the curiosity, imagination. It's just to engage the children. Aims to be just a little bit of fun. I want all my lessons to be fun. Coming from or working in kindergarten for 2 years, this type of stuff I really want this to reflect in my planning of the lessons and the teaching, just for it to be learning to be fun, learning to be hands-on, I just want them to always be wanting to learn. I want my passion and my enthusiasm for learning to really reflect in their thoughts about learning as well, and that's one of my 6 criteria, excellent criteria statements. I just want my passion, I want them to feel my passion, I want that to excite them to learn. So that's what that video is about, to engage, a bit of fun, really to get them thinking about what we're going to do. We've now travelled back into the past. So once the video is finished, I'll turn the lights on. I will say to my students, you have now entered the past, please remain seated. I'll expect they're a bit excited, probably getting a little bit loud, so I'll just calm them, bring them back down, talk in an aeroplane voice. I'll give them the goal of the unit, or the focus for the unit. Over the next several weeks, we'll be looking at how our families and Horsham have changed over time. We will be investigating how objects, items, clothes, entertainment and family lifestyle have changed and continue to change. Today we'll have a look back to the past. We'll be looking at old objects and buildings and comparing them with what we use today. So that's a bit of an overview of the unit and gives a bit of a vision of what we're going to do today. So today we've got 3 activities, just short activities. So activity 1, I'll bring them all back onto the floor so they're all together. I'll say very soon I'm going to split you all up into 4 groups. In your group you'll receive a laminated picture with several props of olden day objects and modern objects. Your task is to match the objects with the old to the new. You'll be looking at clues such as condition of the objects, the shape, the size, and the features. Once you have matched them all, you'll be having a discussion about the usage of the objects and the similarities and the difference from the objects from the old to the new. Has anything changed? For example, have a look at this very old phone. So I might bring in a very old phone. I also have these pictures here. So you'll be able to see here is a picture of a very old phone, one that I've never seen before. And I'll also present them, not in order, all shuffled up, a picture of a new phone, which is a mobile. So their job would be for the first 8 minutes roughly to match them all up. They'll be having discussions, what's the differences. So this one, you have to turn the thing to get turn the handle to get the numbers. This one here, it's touch screen, it's little. So they'll be having discussions about that. I also have heaps of other pictures. So I've got pictures of cars. I've got a typewriter here, and I've also got another picture on the board of a new laptop. I'll be able to bring a typewriter into my lesson. Down here I've got a very old butter churn from home, and also the butter churn paddles. So I would think that my students probably have never seen one of these before, so that would foster really good conversations. I'll definitely be bringing in the hands-on old objects and the new objects as well, just because they've never probably seen them before. It creates another element of a hands-on experience. They'll get to touch it, they'll get to match them all together. So I'll say on the board, you'll see that you've got 8 minutes to match all the objects, and the last 2 minutes each group will have time to share one item with the whole class. So one item that they've probably have never seen the olden day object before, something that's created a lot of discussion about what is it, why did they use it, I guess how has it changed over time, or why has it changed over time. So when I say here that on the board you'll see, I'm a very big believer in visual clues, I guess. I worked at special school for 2 years, and we used visual clues all the time. So on the board, I would hope that I always have a visual clue of how much time they've got left, so they can see here. I should be able to play it. Well, here it's got 10 minutes. As the seconds go past and the minutes go past, the green will go around, so they'll be able to tell. So this is a strategy for children with autism, children with anxiety in the classroom, and I also hope that it might promote or increase work productivity, just because the students know how much time they've got left. They mightn't rush some conversations because they see they've got time, or they might have to rush a little bit at the end because they know that the time's nearly up. So it's just a strategy that I think I'll always use when I have my own classroom. And I'll be using this. You can get them from heaps of apps. I think they're on the interactive whiteboards already, and this one's just a YouTube clip. So after the first activity of looking at the items from the past and the present and the change along the way, we're going to then make a bit more of a personal connection with our own town, which is Horsham. So you might be able to see on the board I've got heaps of pictures of buildings from the past. So I'll bring all the students back to the floor and we'll go on to activity 2. So I will explain to the students, I am now going to split you up into pairs. You will be given a picture of a building from Horsham many, many years ago. On the back of the picture you will find an address. You will need to go onto Google Maps to find the address now in Street View and see if there has been any changes. Once you have found your picture, screen print it and send it to the printer. You'll have 12 minutes to do this. The last 3 minutes you'll link up with another group and show them your findings. I'll also give them the end goal. I'm going to collect all the old pictures, the ones that I've printed off and laminated, with the new pictures, which is the ones that they've screenshotted and printed. And I'm going to make a big display board. I'm going to have a map of Horsham and then arrows from the old picture with the new picture so they can see the changes, where they were positioned in our town. They might be able to find their street and see what their street used to look like. Prior learning to my activity is that they're going to already know how to use Google Maps, they're going to know how to screenshot, and they're going to know how to send a picture to the printer. So they're already going to have experience in that. I'm also going to make sure that all the laptops are on and ready, fully charged, so that when we get into this lesson they can go straight to their laptops and there's no wasting time. I will grab your picture now and show you what I mean for this activity. I just want to point out that when I say I am now and I am now, here and here, so I'm now going to split you up into groups. I want them not to be, their minds to wander off and think, oh, who am I going to go with? I will most likely always pick the groups. I'll pick them, sometimes I'll pick their friendship groups, sometimes I'll pick their interest groups, their ability groups. We'll have mixed abilities, so there's like a buddy system. I'll have heaps of different groups for the activities. But I always think it's important to have that little bit more control of picking the groups, one for behaviour management, but two, I think I would hate for one of the students to feel left out, that they didn't get to go with their friends or their friends didn't want them in their group. It will just, I guess, not only hurt their mental health, but they're also not going to look forward to my lessons. So I just want to take that anxiety away. I'll always say I'm going to, and I'll give that instruction at the start of the sentence so they don't have to start worrying or thinking about who they're going with. So I'll pick a photo. So I've got this one here, which is our main street. So on the back I've got 42 Fibrae Street, Horsham. In this photo you can see we've got old cars, we've got the clock tower, church, Woolworths. So now I'll use Google Maps to have a look what it looks like today. And before this activity, I will show them on the board, give them an example of how I want them to do it as well. So, maps. So here you can see that I've got Google Maps up on my screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is the 42 Firebrae Street. So I'll type it in at the top. Like I said, my students will already have prior knowledge and learning to my lesson. So I'm going to click here so it goes into Street View. And here we can see the clock tower. We can see the church down here. You can also see a roundabout. So we'll have a look at this photo, we'll compare them. The clock tower is still there. Where Woolworths was, we now have a Target. They'll also have a look at the cars. The cars look different. These ones look a bit more modern. The church is still at the back. We've got an added roundabout in here. Now from this picture to the Google Maps picture to how it is actually today has changed again. So we no longer have the Target there, we have something else. So that will also, I guess, create more conversation that it continues to change. Horsham's always going to change. Everyone's going to change. So that would actually be a really good example of the continuity of change. So then they will screenshot it, which is just on my laptop, the bottom button down the bottom. So they'll go in new, and they'll just put this arrow all the way across, and that's the picture that they're going to print here. File, send to, and then print. So they'll all know how to do that. If not, I'll be there to help them anyway. The next one we'll have a look at, and I think this will be a good example if I had a child or a student that lived around this area, is I've got a picture here of Bennett Road Milk Bar. So it's the old Bennett Road Milk Bar. It's 15 Bennett Road, Horsham. The photo was taken in 1969. So I'll type in 15 Bennett Road, Horsham. I'll click here. Now I'll be able to have a look at the changes. So you can probably see that the building kind of looks like the same shape. If you have a bit of a look, there is a brick building next to it, so that's probably the one that's still here. There looks to be that in both photos there is a phone box out the front and a post office litter box out the front as well. The shape at the top's not rectangle anymore. It's more of a triangle, have a point at the top. So there's obviously been changes, especially when this was over 40 years ago. So if I did have a child that owned Bennett Road or lived around the area, this would be a real personal connection to see how old it was in this black and white photo to see how it is today. So that's that activity. So we've now looked at objects. I've brought in objects. I've done the matching game from old to new. So that was in small groups. We've then gone on to laptop, iPad work with pairs that I've chosen, and now we're going to go on to individual work. So I've just changed the lesson. So I'm not doing the same thing. It's a teaching strategy. It's also, I guess, is a way of teaching for many different learning needs. So I'll bring them back to the carpet, back onto the floor. Now our third activity is going to go for about 15 minutes. Together we'll look up this photo on Google Maps. So this is our Horsham's time capsule. It's along the Wimmera River. This is how I'm going to kind of introduce a little bit of our Horsham history. this is something that I had no idea about before I started researching, and so with this activity, it's going to be a kind of a way of how I'm going to introduce a bit of Horsham's past. I've been here for 21 years, and through organising this engaged lesson, it's actually the first time that I've learnt this. And I guess that kind of links to one of my 6 excellent criteria statements is for the teacher to be well prepared. I love learning, so when I know that I've got a lesson coming along or coming up, I love researching the information. It makes me more knowledgeable, it makes me feel more confident when I'm teaching it, and it also lets me organise more engaging lessons. So through my research and what I'm going to teach my students through this activity, or just have a bit of a discussion about it, is that Major Thomas Mitchell first discovered our Wimmera River. He was the first pioneer, I guess, of our land. Our first resident was James Darlett, which one of our streets is named after James Darlett, and that will foster a bit of conversation about how we've got our street names. We've also, one of the first police officers in town was Urquhart. Urquhart, so that was one of another street, our major streets. Our land, who was discovered by James Darlett, was actually land for squatters. So we had a lot of sheep and a lot of cattle on our land, and this photo here, which one of the children will be using to look up the past picture to the present picture. This was our main street, and as you can see here, there's heaps and heaps of sheep in our street. So this kind of really explains that our land was used for sheep and cattle. It was used for squatters. So James Darlett was one of our major squatters, one of our first squatters, and that's why our land was our main street. One of our main streets were named after him. He also gave us the name of Horsham. So he travelled through the land of England, and in England they've got the town Horsham, and he must have liked that name and thought that our Horsham should be named Horsham. That was a long time ago. It was declared a town in 1937 in November, so a very, very long time ago. So my activity, so that little discussion about what the land was for, I'll ask them if they know. We'll link on to their individual work. This is a bit of creativity, break up the lesson a little bit. I will give them a template, or I'll encourage them to draw their own template of a time capsule. So I want them to have a think about, our time capsule in Horsham was actually closed in 2001 and will be reopened in 2025 by our Lions Club. But I want them to think about when the land was used for squatting, of squatters, what do you think that they would have put in our time capsule? What do you think that they would have wanted to save, or what would have they wanted ourselves to see? Maybe something that we've never seen before. I want them to start thinking about what would have they put in our time capsule. So I'll give them the template or encourage them to draw their own one up. There's heaps of different shapes and sizes and models of time capsules. I'm sure they would have seen it in TV shows or movies. And they'll just have 15 minutes to draw up what they think. I really want them to have a good think about what would be in the time capsule. So this will later link on towards the end of our unit. We'll be looking at what would they put in the time capsule now for future people to look at. So after that 15 minutes with our visual timer on the interactive whiteboard, I'll bring them back in for a bit of a discussion. This will roughly go for maybe 10 minutes depending on their interests and their input. I will say to them, now we're going to start a critical thinking board, which we will refer back to over the next few weeks. This is to encourage deeper thinking by asking questions. So I'll ask them a question to give them an example of what I'm thinking. So I would say, I want you to have a think. If people didn't have electricity and power back in the day, how do they keep food cold? So this is kind of a question that I really had to think about as well. Luckily, my grandma had told me what they used to do. They used to put all the food under the ground to keep it cold. But these are the type of questions that I want them to start thinking about. How did people do things in the past? How do we do them now? And then towards the end of the unit, we'll be thinking about how will we do it in the future. So I'll be writing down their questions. I don't want to give them any of the answers. I definitely want them to give suggestions, ideas. Someone might say something and then another student might disagree or might add to that idea. I definitely don't want to provide them with the answers. This is just our critical thinking board. It's just to foster or create heaps of discussion for the future, for the whole unit. Once we've had this deep discussion that I'm hoping to have, I will say your challenge for this week is to go home and ask your parents or grandparents about how they grew up. Did they grow up in Horsham? What has changed? See if you can find out some of the answers from the question board. So that's where they're going to go do their research at home, ask the questions. I don't believe in homework. I believe in interaction with parents and not sitting down and doing, I guess, academic work as such. More the discovery and that more interactive type questions at home. So that's why I've set this challenge for the week. It's going to lead on to our next question, our next lesson, and future onto the unit,